All right. So it says we're live. We both took a sip of our assorted drinks. I'm Russell Clay. This is Clay's Corner. I am joined by Mike the Beard. Many of you who are watching this will probably recognize him from somewhere. And, you know, he does a bunch of sports. I know him mainly from college football. But what's going on, dude? How you doing?
Dude, I'm stoked to be on here. I appreciate you having me on here. Just getting ramped up, man. I mean, college football, they had their portal open and then close and then open again. And spring football's had their heyday. The draft came. And I mean, it's just an exciting time to gear up for this next NFL season. We've got baseball rocking and rolling. NBA's coming to a close. It's a good time in sports. I'm excited for it.
So I had to laugh, everyone, because normally the person who asks someone to come on does the show sheet. But my man Mike, I was like, because this all started because we were doing the draft. And, we did a draft show a few years ago. And we didn't get to connect on draft day. But it's like, yeah, let's get our takes flying somewhere. This is the platform, but yeah, so I haven't talked to Mike about any of the drafts since I knew we were going to be doing this. So I'm curious to get all his thoughts on the craziness. I mean, we're not going to start with Michael Penix, but and Mike's really a good, college football DFS guy. He breaks down the slates for us. He does the main slate breakdown, in the fall. So definitely check that out when it becomes time. But we have this unique perspective for college football DFS where we know Indiana Michael Penix, Beard. We remember that. That was a time I laugh because the negative interception to touchdown ratio, just the absolute disaster. He was always a guy at Indiana where we were like, yeah, there's some talent there. I feel like we probably did a live stream or two.
I have loved that dude since he was coming into college. Like, that has always been my dude. Shouts to Scott Bonner. He will testify. I have been a Penix truther.
But it's been a long road, right? I mean, I guess we can start here because when it ended at Indiana, I think we all were like, all right, there's clearly talent there, but I felt like it was over. And then he goes to Washington and he kicks ass to a totally different level for a couple years. So, yeah, I guess let's start us off. Fuck it. Let's just go right into Michael Penix because that has been on my mind for like 2-3 weeks now.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, the biggest shock, I think, to all of us was the fact that Atlanta, with the 8th pick, going to Michael Penix Jr., was just not really like a foreseen thing that I think any of us were really expecting here in the top 10. There was rumors that they were going to trade the pick and everything. As a Vikings fan, I was ecstatic that they were looking to possibly trade the pick because I was like, hey, this could give Minnesota a good shot to move up here. And, Atlanta doing Atlanta things is very weird. And, taking Penix, I love the fact that they love him, but I hate the fact that they have Cousins, who they literally just signed to a massive deal.
Yeah.
Penix is a little bit older. By the end of Cousins' contract that he has, Penix is going to be like 27, 28, pushing 28, maybe just turned 28. So, man, I hate it for Penix because, dude, that's rough to come in if you're 27, 28 to all of a sudden be the starter at that point. So I'm hoping something crazy happens and Penix actually gets a little bit of a better jump to his career because, man, that talent, that arm, he's my favorite quarterback in the draft. Like, arm talent wise, he's incredible. That deep ball is ridiculous. The skill players they have in Atlanta surrounding him, I mean, they're all young. They're fantastic. It's a great fit, but then there's Kirk Cousins there. So I'm just like, come on, man. Like, yeah, it threw me for a whirlwind.
Yeah. So, we get to talk quite a bit during the year about systems, quarterbacks, running back, wide receiver, and basically offenses in general. And then we get to laugh about like LSU's defense and stuff like that. But when these quarterbacks come into the NFL, we kind of have this sample, and since we're kind of gambling on them, we're very invested in these results on a week-to-week basis, more so than someone who's just even watching for the draft. They're not going to care about, Caleb Williams versus Fresno State in week 2, but we're like, nah, he better stay in past halftime or we're fucked. And so the Caleb Williams thing, right? We know him going back to Oklahoma. We know him, in this Lincoln Riley system. Talk about where you kind of ended up on him, because there's a lot of different, we all know the talents there, but there's people that are not very happy with how his final season turned out, and I can certainly understand that. So where you at? Where'd you end up with Caleb?
Yeah, all the rumors and craziness, his, what do you want to call it, flamboyant ways at times, and the drama that he has with him. He's just that Hollywood type of player. I really am not too worried about him. I think the talent is there. They obviously have surrounded him with like the perfect core for a new quarterback to be coming in with all the hype. With DJ Moore there, with Keenan Allen there now. They drafted well and everything. I'm not scared for Caleb to actually succeed in this spot. They did a fantastic job, giving him weapons and everything, unlike they did to Justin Fields. Still a little hurt about that one. But
yeah,
I think the talent is there. We saw that when he was a freshman, when he was coming in. I think that first game that we actually saw him come in was it right before halftime, and he ran that 50-yard touchdown all of a sudden, and it was like, okay, well, this kid might have something special with his legs, but then we saw his arm talent too, and
yeah.
I know he played for Lincoln Riley, so obviously, he's going to have some monster numbers because every quarterback does under him. But at the same time,
except for Spencer Rattler,
which I think we're going to get to Rattler a little bit here as well. But with that said, Rattler did have a few good games where he was putting up some numbers for a while. And if it wasn't for Caleb being there, Rattler might have finished out. So. We got to take that into consideration as well. Caleb was a great prospect coming up. It would have been stupid to, just let him slide. But I think Caleb is set up. I don't think he's necessarily going to be, a bust quarterback. I do think there are some, for sure. You can't have 6 quarterbacks go in the first round and not have a couple busts. It's going to happen. We always know that.
So last thing on Caleb, and then we can kind of move on to what I wanted to open with, which is a little more about you. But USC, this final season, right? Again, DFS perspective was a freaking nightmare. Like with those wide receivers, the game 1, I was like, oh, Zachariah Branch, he's going to get 1,500 yards. And then he was barely playing snaps. I don't know if he got hurt. I forget what happened there, but that didn't happen. Brendan Rice ended up being a 5th, 6th round NFL draft pick. Taj Washington, not really a guy that NFL teams got that excited about. Mario Williams, a guy I thought was going to be filthy, didn't really come. The only guy that was really a game changer was Marshawn Lloyd, and that was a running back. So I think there is sort of an argument to be made of what was this? Was this a good supporting cast? Because, again, the Lincoln Riley system, they usually have ridiculous weapons. This year, my Yelp review, maybe 2.5 stars. Where'd you kind of... I'll name Dorian Singer, Mario Williams, Branch, Rice, Washington. It kind of felt like they were a year away as weapons.
Yeah, I think part of the problem was, they were still trying to revamp USC. They were bringing in all these kids from all over the place. They wanted to hype it up real fast, and they thought they were just going to, shine immediately. That wasn't really realistic. There was also the transfer or position transfer of Raleek Brown moving from running back to receiver. Thought, early on in the year that he was going to actually play some in the slot. He ended up hardly playing anything. He was a good water boy there for a while. think he ended up hitting the portal. I got to check on that again. But I mean, I think a lot of the talent was there. I think some of these guys are, a lot more sleepers because the one problem that we have in that kind of offense under Lincoln Riley is all these kids rotate so much, so you don't really get that full rhythm. We saw the same thing at Oklahoma over and over and over again. CeeDee Lamb, the same thing. Like it was just, you don't see them consistently always out there. What was it, Respro? Wasn't he there before Miami?
God.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of these kids, like, they just don't have that full shot to really just take it on with Lincoln Riley. I mean, I think Rice, like you mentioned, I think he's actually, if you're looking at those notes that I sent you, I put it on there. Like, I think he was a fantastic pick. I mean, in the 6th round, that was crazy. Like, talent's there. There's Mario Williams. Oh, man, I don't know what to do with that kid. I don't know. Is it there or is it not?
I thought it was there, and it might not be.
Like Singer, same thing. Singer was hurt a lot too. He was hurt pretty much the whole year. So I mean, that didn't really pan out as well. We've seen quite a few players hit the portal and injuries just kind of derailed them when we thought they were going to smash. So it's just tough with the Lincoln Riley thing, man. Like every running back that he's had, they have flashes. I mean, they show up. Marshawn Lynch, he what was it 2 years ago? He was leading the SEC in rushing.
Yep.
South Carolina.
Marshawn Lloyd, South Carolina, and now I can't help but kind of be in as like a dynasty value because he showed so much to me in this final year. But again, what do you have, like 1,100 yards? They didn't let him cook, as the kids say.
Yeah, they rotated at running back too. I mean, it's man, it's just tough with that Lincoln Riley offense. Like his whole scheme is just, how many guys do we get in the game? It's just like, it's just tough.
So shifting back for a second, Mike, we've been working together for a few years now. College football for you, that's your main sport, right? I know. What do you do at Guru? College football, you do a lot of sport. You do NBA. What other sports do you do?
Yeah, college football, that's my baby. That's my pride and joy. I absolutely love college football. I go really hard with it all year. Probably annoy some people with it, but it's fun. It's a blast. NFL, I do cover NFL as well. I wrote the defensive article for the first 2 years that I was with Guru. Last year, Jorge Pucks and I swapped out. He ended up going to take the defensive article. I started doing the cheat sheets. So we're trying to bouncing ideas around, coming up with new things, trying to reinvent things a little bit for the DFS side of fantasy football that we all love. I don't do too much on the seasonal dynasty side. I used to, but probably about 7 years ago, I started taking more of a backseat to it. Fall in love with DFS to a hardcore extent. I do play basketball quite a bit with DFS. I do cover a little bit with NBA as well. Did a lot of the cheat sheets. Didn't do a whole lot of articles this year, but I did some last year in the playoffs and whatnot. MLB, I have covered a few articles here and there. I had to tell shouts to Armando to get me on for the cheat sheets. I'm ready for some baseball, at least until football season goes. Like,
nice.
I will say, as a fantasy guru, we have been pretty loaded with talent of everybody that can just do so many different sports.
It's great.
Awesome.
It's crazy. I've been hanging out in the MMA Discord a little bit, and T-Rod and Surge, and they're like, they do so many sports well that I'm like, yo, I do like maybe Dynasty well and like a few others, and they're like all over, and then they have these great breakdowns every week. So go check out our products over there on the DFS and sports betting side of things. Those guys put in a ton of work to get everyone prepared. Fun to sweat out in the Discords as well, I must say. But yeah, man, I've been in the DFS space for quite a while now. The cheat sheet is the backbone of any content, right? I mean, ultimately, there's going to be a lot of people streaming in last minute, and they're like, all right, I love in-depth breakdowns. I got 5 minutes to set this lineup. just help me out. What do we got here, right?
When you got X amount of salary left, and you're like, well, who can I plug in? Go to the cheat sheet, like, because that's what that's for. Like, it's you have a core. You don't make all of your lineups on that core. A lot of people kind of think that, but we try and give the best plays always. Like, and the cheat sheet, we specify GPP plays, cash game plays, a little bit different in college football than any other sport. But we talk about that all season long on how to look at all that stuff. And yeah, that cheat sheet, it's actually a lot bigger than people think because it helps you build those next lineups real quick. You find that price salary that you need, boom, rock and roll, ready to go.
Yeah. So that's what we do now. All of us have an origin story of how we got into sports. Young Russ was picking at the bugs at 8 years old playing, or 7 years old playing soccer. And then he found baseball cards. And that's that's the origins for me. So where did sports start for you? Did you play? Were you always kind of into college football? How did this are you from the South as well? I know you're in the South, but how did this all break down? Break it down for me.
All right. So my family, we're all military. My dad was in the Navy. My mom was in the Navy. I was in the Navy. My brother was in the Navy, so on and so forth. Everybody's military. I was born in Virginia, and then shortly after we moved to Florida, and then shortly after we moved to Spain, where I was about 4 when we moved there. So at that point, I started getting a little bit of interest in, a little older things, not just toddler shows. And I just fell in love with sports because my dad is a huge sports guy. Played every sport, wrestling, went to states for down in Sarasota and everything. So he played football. He was big time in that. And all that love of sports. My dad was very active as I was growing up, where he was still playing racquetball and basketball and literally anything that he could do sport-wise, he was still all over it. So he kind of helped us, growing up to fall in love with sports. I definitely grabbed the most of it compared to anybody else in my family, my siblings and stuff. But it's been a blast. Like it's a whirlwind. I was probably 12, 13 first time I did a seasonal fantasy, and I was like, man, this is a lot of fun. I remember trying to talk my dad into it because he never really did fantasy, and next thing you know, my dad loved it, and we were just getting one league over, and I was running 6 leagues myself. Every year I was in 9 to 11 leagues, money leagues for quite a long time.
Wow.
I was winning a couple leagues every single year, and then 7, 8 years ago, fantasy football and everything. One day I was like, let me do this DraftKings thing. I was like, let me check this out. It was probably 8 or 9 years ago now. I downloaded the app, of course, and I remember sitting at work, and I'm like, man, let me see how this thing goes. Let's put $25 in. I put it in there, I cashed, and I was like, oh, this is easy. I got this. Lo and behold, shocker, not as easy as you think.
Back then, if you had a really, really strong knowledge of sports, like you said, you cashed, you probably were very profitable in those days. It's gotten much sharper now, but yeah, you were probably I had the same experience, oh, I'm the man. And then you see all those 150. Well, back then they could probably do 300 lineups, and you're like, oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think I won $68 the very first tournament that I entered, and that's when I was like, man, this is cakewalk. Let's go. And, the next couple of weeks weren't quite as great. I think I still profited a little bit, but over the years, yeah, like you were saying, the analytics have just gotten phenomenal. Data has gotten just stronger and stronger every year. The field. My dog is wanting to play. No, not right now.
Well, hold on. What's the pup's name?
Oakley. You want to say hello? Say hello to everybody.
Oh, look at the fella.
Okay, she's a little timid sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so basketball, I go through, my heater runs with that. MLB, same thing. There's a running joke with a bunch of us that have shouts to Rose. We haven't talked about him at all. But we've all known each other for a very long time. Me and Chris Rose actually met on Twitter originally. That really started getting stronger with MLB. That we connected first, and then we brought in George. We brought in Scott Bonder. We brought in one person after another, some people in and out and everything. Our group chat has just like expanded and shrunk and expanded over the years. I've known T Rod and Serge for probably about 5-6 years now. Back multiple companies ago when we were all first coming up. So I've kind of brought them along as well. Like they're fantastic, as you know. But we've loved sports, and we talk about sports literally every day. That is the busiest group text that I've ever had in my entire life. There's a lot of jokes, but it is hilarious. It is fun because our takes, we get on each other about the hot takes that are cold, ice cold. Like we love it. I mean, we dog each other, cheer each other on. Same thing that we do in Discord. I mean, we're, rooting for each other, making jokes the whole time. You got to have fun with it. If you're not having fun, being able to crack jokes, even with the losses, and, it's probably not for you. But, yeah, man, it's been fun. I love it.
So Chris Rose, another beast, another literal, actual, human beast, college football player formerly. So you guys have been buddies for what? Years now, right?
We met probably in 2016, somewhere around there, 2015.
Wow, so quite a while now. Yeah.
Talking about baseball. And just, it went one thing to another. And yeah, it's crazy all these years later, like where we have both grown within the industry and everything, from just being some guys trying to get a little bit better on our own to, we're covering multiple sports all the time.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so in terms of content, it's pretty crazy how this has gone. I feel like those were so long ago when everything was just happening. It's a much different fantasy world now, but some good nostalgia for those of you that have been around since the mid 2010s in our fantasy space, right?
Definitely.
All right, let's get to the draft here. We've already talked about Caleb and Penix. Any other thoughts on Drake May, Jaden Daniels, et cetera, McCarthy? I was lower on McCarthy, and then he went to the Vikings, and I was like, never mind. Abandon ship. I'm out. Okay, you win. Justin Jefferson.
So I might surprise you here a little bit. Drake May, I think most of us kind of saw that coming to New England. That was obviously, the odds favorite. We all kind of pieced that one together. It made sense, especially when they got rid of Mac. Obviously, we knew something was going to happen. Unfortunately, Zappy is not their future. Man.
R.I.P. those Western Kentucky offenses, huh?
Man, they were so fun. But Jaden Daniels, he'll be fine. I think in Washington, they gave him a couple weapons, so he has plenty of toys there. They obviously had a very terrible offensive line. I still think they did Sam Howell wrong, but it is what it is. We move along. We just do with whatever these teams want to do. We'll figure it out from there. To the JJ McCarthy thing, as you know, I am a Vikings fan. I'm a Florida State fan. I'm not a Go Blue fan. I've never been impressed with J.J. McCarthy. He's never done anything to surprise me. I mean, he ran – the only thing, I give him credit is, it's Harbaugh's system at Michigan. No quarterback is going to shine. That's just what it is. They're going to play old school football. They're going to run the ball, and you're going to be a game manager. We never had to see McCarthy actually try and fully take over a game, go on, a big run. He's just never done it for me. I've probably wrote him up as a DFS play twice. You don't play them. There's just nothing McCarthy has done that I'm just man, that guy, he's going to be for real. I don't want to say it because, as a Vikings fan, I hate it, but I have Zach Wilson vibes from him, and I hated Zach Wilson. I hated the kid. I never thought he was very good. Never once. He was a college kid that had some okay numbers his senior year. That was it. I was never impressed with Trey Lance. He never played anybody. His numbers were something. It just wasn't there was no spotlight to really see okay, under pressure, what's going to really happen with him and whatnot. and I think you have to have monster numbers if you're not in like those big spotlights and stuff, like to really shine and show like you could take over and you could just put up, arcade numbers and stuff. McCarthy, I mean, obviously, he's surrounded with, Addison, Jefferson, Hawkinson. There's plenty of talent.
That's my kind of where I'm at. It's like, okay, can he dump it off to Hawkinson? Probably. Can he just lob it up blindly to
Like, is he
Jefferson?
Carson Palmer, maybe, like because of the talent around him? Or
Man,
like I don't see him being a superstar. Like, is he just going to be like coasting through most of his career, like Carson Palmer did? Like, might have a little run here or there, but like overall, I mean, you're not it.
yeah. Another guy that is very interesting for this. We watched the team last year, South Carolina. Xavier Legette, right? He had weeks where we were all like, holy shit, this guy's unreal. And then, because he was on South Carolina, he'd have other weeks where he got completely shut down. First round pick to Carolina. I'm certainly intrigued. Older prospect, didn't really blow up on some very mediocre depth charts before last season. So where'd you end up on Legette and his unreal skill set, but also questionable profile?
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Leggett. I've always been. I think the skill set is pretty raw, but there's a lot of talent hidden under there. If you can get that out of him, because I mean the physical traits are all there. We've seen the highlight reels from him. We've watched him, just bulldoze kids and stuff. Like he's a man amongst the boys, and he is a Southern boy. If you ever hear him talk, it is hilarious. Like, that is not what you expect from that man. But like you said, like Carolina's depth is just so terrible. Like they need somebody to, jump out at wide receiver, and I think Legette's got a great opportunity right there for that. I mean, with Bryce coming into the sophomore year now, he needs somebody to really, mesh with. Why not another SEC wide receiver?
All right. Speaking of wide receivers, I'm going to give you maybe a minute or two to talk about Keon Coleman. And sad to see Johnny Wilson, the most athletic wide receiver of all time, just not get any respect here. But Keon Coleman to Buffalo, that feels like a really upside play. And people are comparing him to Gabe Davis, which I don't think is as bad of a comp. Like, that's not as much of an insult as people think it is. Gabe Davis been a starter for 3+ years now and been pretty good. But I feel like there's a little more meat on the bone there. Where are you at with Coleman, watching him pretty closely at Florida State?
Yeah, I think Coleman is, this class, okay, let's be honest. The past, 3-4 years, wide receiver classes have been loaded. Coleman, is right up there with them, I think. He does make some stupid plays here and there. But, oh, my gosh, that dude can make the most incredible catches that you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And just go up and get it, against anybody. In the middle of the field, he can outrun half these guys. It was crazy to watch, his 40 time was horrible. We knew he was faster than that. And then he goes through, the next drills and, over and over again, he's blown by everybody. It's dude, what happened at the 40? The gauntlet, he blew through it faster than anybody. Straight line, boom. And everybody was just dude, this doesn't make sense. And he's got that dog in him, I think, at receiver to just go out there, put his head down. And I think you just got to get him to focus a little bit more. Stop thinking about going downfield as much as watch that ball come in, control it the whole time, and then take off. Because he can run through guys. He can run past guys. And I think it just gets past him a little bit here and there where, he's already thinking about that next highlight where he just wants to, make that one-handed catch or something, spin around, and he's gone. But, you're not going to be able to do that in the NFL either. Not on a consistent basis. Justin Jefferson doesn't do that every catch. It's not realistic. Everybody's obviously better. So I think the talent overall is there. Obviously Buffalo, same thing. They need some receivers to step up. It's a fantastic spot. He's got a great quarterback there. He could be in for a huge year. I mean, great career ahead. think the size is, clearly there. We all know that. So, yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm excited for him.
We are in a new era of NFL football where this is slot receivers and these big exaggerated tight end receiver combos are coming. And we've seen this, Mike, in college football for many years, where we started to see this in the 2010s, where it'd be like Texas Tech would run like 4 or 5 wide receiver sets all the time. And it'd be a nightmare to break down. Like, who was that Texas Tech guy? There was one that was really good, but they'd have like 6 guys, and it'd be impossible every week to kind of nail down some of those players. But I say this because you put Ladd McConkey in there, right? And Georgia has had one of these systems where they're rotating a ton of guys, they're rotating a ton of running backs, not a high octane offense. But when we look at a guy like Ladd McConkey, we're starting to see the NFL use guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown like a true featured weapon. And he is not a guy in 2005 who would have, they've always had the TJ Houshmandzadehs, they've always had the Wes Welkers, but this feels like an NFL system, like these systems now, they all are going to have this guy. And the reason why I feel like this is real is because we've been seeing this in college football forever. So Ladd McConkey to Herbert, and I'm like, all right, this guy is not even close to Marv or Neighbors but could he have 150 targets in a year? Like, sure, right?
Yeah. Because, we all know, like, I think you and I have talked about this on stream for college football. There was one stream back with Quentin Johnston, like a year or two ago. You and I were talking about it. You're like, I know you're going to love QJ. And I'm just like, well, sometimes. Cause it's like, he makes these highlight catches and stuff. And then it's like, he drops the most random stuff. And it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Man, like, he's one of those guys, Quentin Johnston, he's so raw that I don't know if he's ever fully going to pull it together, which opens it up for Ladd. And they need that possession receiver that's going to be able to play in the slot, put him outside, move him around, be that Swiss Army knife. I think he could do it. I think he is like that Wes Welker type where, you just kind of move him around. David Palmer of the Vikings in the 90s, you literally just throw him around everywhere and anywhere and just try and get him to get open. Like, whatever you got to do. You might not even give him a route half the time. It's just go get open. Like, just do something because you don't know what the rest of your receivers might do. They did draft a few. It's going to have some opportunities, but I think Ladd has the most legit talent out of all of them, if that makes sense. Like, I think he's got probably the best hands out of all of them. He was injured a little bit at Georgia too, so we got to take that in consideration. And like you mentioned with Georgia, same thing, George Pickens. Pickens got hurt at Georgia. He wasn't heavily featured. And, then when he did get featured, he was fantastic. When Ladd got featured, he was fantastic. When Brock Bowers was out, Ladd was fantastic. So,
I was trained from a young age to say, all right, I am looking for a George Pickens type, right? Like, I am looking for the 6'3", 6'4" guy. He's going to mash. I'm looking for the Calvin, the T.O., the Moss. Here we are in 2024, and I'm like, is Ladd McConkey going to outproduce fucking George Pickens now? Like, I have to have this conversation, and it's like a real one. Because I think George Pickens is amazing, but I also can acknowledge, like, fantasy-wise, you don't get extra points for making a spectacular sideline grab 30 yards down the field. I would argue you should, but, 5 catches for 40 yards is going to get you there better,
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But is it Pickens' fault?
No, not at all. It's the game we play.
Like, it's just
I
God, like, can you imagine like Pickens with like a legit quarterback?
I know.
Like, oh my gosh.
I just, I looked at Adam Thielen, what he did in Carolina last year versus George Pickens was like the same. And I'm like, I hate that so much.
Like, okay, well,
Uh,
what if Lad's career is like Thielen?
that's what I'm saying. Like he might just outproduce Pickens in
Like
his
same
career.
that's the kind
It's
of role like that possession guy of just
yep,
get open. Like the Edelmans, all these guys that they're just possession guys. Like I'm
so
not gonna say
valuable.
not Deontay Johnson. He doesn't score
No.
touchdowns.
One other guy in that round, Ben Sano. You wrote great fit for Washington. Guy at Kansas State who we all some weeks it was like, all right, is this his blow up week? In an NFL offense, might be a guy that flourishes a little more than a pretty limited Kansas State system there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think his run blocking is fantastic. Pass blocking's there. He's got phenomenal hands. He's got the size. When you're looking for a tight end, I mean, he's pretty much got everything checked off. I mean, we've always thrown him in there as like one of the value plays in college football because he was usually like 4,500 and under. So it was,
Yeah.
throw him in your cash games, throw him wherever because he's going to see the targets. And every young quarterback needs a decent tight end for security. And why not have a fantastic tight end with your brand new flashy quarterback and ready to rock and roll? It's going to be different for the system overall. Like this Washington team is just going to be drastically different overall from what we've seen in the past few years and all. But Washington historically has liked to feature tight ends. I don't care who your coaches ever were, but I mean they've liked to get tight ends in there, and a lot of them. Hopefully, he breaks the curse of getting hurt because a lot of them got hurt and concussions one or another. And yeah, I love the fit. I think it's a great fit for him.
So who are a couple guys in round 3 that piqued your interest? We have Trey Benson to the Cardinals, Corley, Blake Corum to the Rams, Roman Wilson, Marshawn Lloyd to Green Bay, McMillan, 3rd round. I like it. And Lil CMC, I'm guessing is that Will Shipley?
No, little CMC, little McCaffrey, Luke.
Oh, I was like,
I knew that was going to throw you because Shipley got drafted in that 3rd round, I believe, too. So I was like, man, this will be perfect. Let me put that there.
so what out of that really piqued your interest?
I mean, I think the biggest thing was McMillan. I mean, I think that's a fantastic spot for him down in Tampa. And Baker has been thriving recently. I mean, Evans is only getting a little bit older. He's still been really solid. How long is Godwin going to always be around? They need that 3rd wide receiver to really fully step up, kind of emerge, maybe take a spot from Godwin or something. I don't think Edwin's spot or Evans' spot is, he's still going to be the wide receiver 1, but we know the talent's there with McMillan. He got banged up at the end of his year in Washington last year. Obviously playing with Penix for a couple of years. He had some huge numbers. But we've seen the talent there. He's got fantastic hands. He runs downfield really well. He could be a really strong deep threat for Tampa.
Love.
The Roman Wilson thing, again, we saw flashes of a couple plays all year. Like that was it. Not each game or anything. It was all year.
Yeah.
And who knows what they're going to do because now Fields is, a punt returner for Pittsburgh supposedly as of today. So, who really knows what's going on in Pittsburgh? So I don't know what to really think of half of what's going on there. Corum to the Rams, whatever. Like, I don't think Corum is an NFL great running back. I don't think he's a starter. I think he's just Amir Abdullah. He's going to be there. That's just is what it is. Yeah. Corley, as we know, I think is probably my most exciting one out of all of them. Corley was a fantastic college wide receiver. Put up monster numbers. We know that Aaron Rodgers can throw the ball as long as he can stay healthy. And if he does go down, we'll get to the next quarterback. We'll get there in a couple rounds. But Corley, the Jets are looking to revive everything that they got going on there. They have some good talent all around, but I think Corley could definitely make a name for himself up there.
Love it. All right, so a few guys. We know round 4 and on, hit rates are generally lower than those top 3 first 2-day guys, but highlight a few guys you're looking at as late round players. I know for me, I looked at Troy Franklin, and I guess I was wrong compared to the NFL, but they were not very high on him. 4th round pick, but I'm still interested there. Aeneas Smith to the Eagles, probably not much opportunity, but I thought, and I'm glad you marked him down here as well, as like I was super impressed with him at Texas A&M, and our boy Johnny Wilson. Those are kind of like, I'm still interested, even though they were late round guys. Last one that you put here for me is Braylon Allen, who got so much hype when he was that first year at Wisconsin when he was 17. But you have a lot. You have a lot of guys,
18.
huh?
He's still under 18. Yeah.
Oh God, how many years? Like when he's 30, we're still gonna be. He's probably be not with us anymore in the NFL. But break it down for me, because you have a pretty good knowledge of some of these guys, just as like you covered the games and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Eric All to Cincinnati was fantastic. Now Burrow has a great tight end there. They actually, I think, drafted 2 tight ends. I think I put the other one there. What was the other one? Oh, yeah, Tanner McLaughlin. So they actually, pretty loaded there at tight end as well. Obviously, Burrow's going to be coming in for a bounce back, coming back from injury and everything. The Theo Johnson, he was phenomenal in camp, or not camp, but the combine. I mean, he graded out fantastic. And, he's another one of those guys that, he played for Penn State. So it's like, what kind of numbers are you really going to have? They run the ball. So you're not going to have these like big old flashy numbers, but he was still a great player. Jatavian Sanders, I absolutely love him for Carolina because, like I've been saying, these young quarterbacks need a strong tight end that can do some things. Jatavian Sanders, we know, can do some things. He's a freak size-wise, speed-wise, everything. He's not your normal tight end. He can play in the slot. You can move him around. So I think he could be a lot of fun for Carolina. They obviously need some people to step up anyway. Javon Baker, threw him in there too. He's a lot like Tyquan Thornton, already in New England. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. They got a lot of young guys. We just need to see who's really going to pan out there. But that Braylon Allen on the Jets, I really find that really interesting because, Breece Hall has been talking about, like, just give him the ball and he'll take care of it. Like, he just wants the ball. Like, now you bring in Braylon Allen, and, like, he's young, he's big, he can keep Breece Hall healthier a little bit longer because you can run, like, a little thunder lightning thing with them. I think it's a good possibility we see a little more Braylon Allen than people might want to see. I'm not going to say a ton, but I think it's a good possibility.
I like it.
With that size and everything, why would you not be bringing him in on the goal line?
Totally agree. And the NFL 20 years ago, Beard, he's a top 10 pick in the draft, right?
Exactly.
But it's just they don't value that. When we think back to like a Derrick Henry, even that dude went 2nd round. So it's just clear that skill set is not one they put a lot of emphasis on in the draft anymore.
Yeah, 100%. So something we kind of briefly talked about earlier. Rattler to the Saints. Is he their future? Did they draft him for that and like think they got a sneaky pick in the 5th, or like they're just like, whatever, just pick somebody? Like, just
I don't know, man. I know I looked at the depth chart and I realized Derek Carr is their starter again. And I'm like, oh, those Saints fans are gonna riot. They're used to winning. They're used to being in the playoffs. They do not. They're not gonna like that.
Are you gonna waste Chris Olave?
I know.
at some point you got to do something. But like, is Rattler it? I've never been huge on Rattler, but like he's shown at times where he's got a little something, and then it just disappears again. So I don't know. Like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know. Rasheen Ali going to Baltimore. Man, they have every running back in the world. Ali's never going to play. So that's pretty much the end of him. You and I briefly had a little exchange on Twitter about Tyrone Tracy. He's got a little dog in him. So I agree with you 100% there. Like, he could definitely do a little something for the Giants. But something I think you didn't mention when you're briefly going over these notes was Malik Washington in Miami. Obviously, we don't think he's going to play a ton. But, dude, at what point is Miami going to get stopped from drafting all these dudes that could just fly down the field and put up big plays? That's all they did. Like,
I know. It's crazy.
His career is just like, go deep. We're going to truck the ball to you. You're going to outrun everybody, and you're going to score. Like, and he did that, and he was phenomenal at it. And now he goes to Miami, where literally that's what they do. Like, that's what they breed these players to do. It's a great fit if something were to happen and somebody got hurt, because you have the same type of player coming right in. Like, you don't have to change the system or anything. You don't have to slow it back down. I mean, obviously not everybody's Tyreek, but he's going to do the same type of things. Not the same, but yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. Jaheim Bell, I was really shocked that he went in the 7th round, to be honest.
Same.
Yeah. I don't know what it was. Like, because he's that same freak tight end. Like, he's a tight end that can play in the slot. You can move him around. He played running back. He played running back in the SEC for South Carolina before transferring to Florida State. Like, he did everything. You got inside the 5, and it was like Jaheim Bell's getting the ball. And, like, boom, he'd score. He was fantastic for Florida State. I have no idea what happened, why he dropped. Like, I really thought he was like a 5th rounder. So found that a little interesting. Obviously, the Pats, a lot of young talent coming in there. Somebody's going to have to stand out. So I think that's an interesting spot for him.
Love it, man. Well, you have, of course, a ton of knowledge on all this stuff. I feel like if I just let you go, you could go for another 2 hours on the Jaheim Bell goal line rushing attempts. I love all this stuff. Lots of good clips we have for the social media. But is there anything else you want to throw out there before we kind of head out of here? I feel like we've done a pretty good review here of what we got.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thanks for having me on. I'm sure we'll do it again, probably a few times throughout the year as football ramps up and everything. One thing we didn't hit on was Jordan Travis going in the 5th round of the Jets. We know he's getting older. It's giving Travis a little bit of time to heal up. I do think that could be a fantastic thing if it all pans out right. We know Jordan Travis has a lot of talent.
Fifth round coming off a major injury, so I don't think that can be slept on either. So
I think he was probably 2nd round if he was fully healthy and got to finish out the year. Probably late 2nd round or something. Like, I think there's a good possibility.
Absolutely. Is there anything you want to plug work-wise? Obviously, this is going to be on Fantasy Guru, so Mike. If you're doing the other sports, you probably already know him. But is there anything you want to plug? Any work you're doing right now?
Yeah. So right now, just started off first MLB cheat sheet of the year for me was yesterday. I have another one coming out tomorrow. Start jumping in the MLB Discord. I was in there a little bit early on to start the season because a lot of us, we do have day jobs where we're all bouncing back and forth. So we're all helping each other, trying to jump in there, and we all love the same sport. So it works out great. We're all a lot of the same pages most of the time, which makes it a little easier too. But I will say, like, Scott Bonder and I don't know, maybe Russell, you'll jump in on this year too. I think maybe you did it one year. Right around July, we start putting out a few articles about what to expect with college football. So be on the lookout with that. Little conference breakdowns, real quick ones, just players that transferred and what we kind of expect to happen.
God, boy, when we started doing those, we had no idea how much we were gonna need them now, because it is chaos.
Quick story. Scott Bonder asked me about 3 weeks ago. He was like, "Man, he's like, you want to start going on some articles?" And I was like, "No, dude, the portal draft open." And he was like, "What?" Next thing you know, I'm like sending him one thing after another, and he's like, "Okay, not yet." I said, "No, man, you can't. Like, this portal thing is wild." Like, so I mean, there's news coming out every day. It's going to be interesting. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that type of content is so valuable now. Cause I mean, I'll be honest, like even me, I come onto these rosters in October and September and I'm like, what? That guy's on there now? So yeah, that is a very valuable resource. So awesome, man. Well, once again, thank you for coming on. And yeah, as you said, we will definitely do this again. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. Please give the video a like, subscribe, come hang out in the Discord, come hang out in the college football, and hey, go check out if you want to get some sweats in the summer, hang out in the MLB and play some DFS. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time.